Yeah, exactly. But you dove the Samuel B. Roberts, the USS Johnson.
Yep.
What were those experiences like? Did you find one of those? Did you identify where
we found both of them.
And I would, they hadn't been found previously?
And I would argue that finding them, especially the Samuel B. Roberts, was even harder than finding the Titanic. It's 1/10 the size.
And these were like the hero ships.
Yeah, and they were the hero ships. I mean, these guys, little Samuel B. Roberts wasn't even as fast as the Johnston and had less than half the guns. And she was trying to keep up with her big brothers taking on these Japanese heavy cruisers. At one point, the Samuel B. Roberts was just laying gunfire into a Japanese heavy cruiser, and the guns of the Japanese cruiser couldn't depress low enough to fire on her.
Really?
Because she was so close. And they thought, well, this is working, until it didn't, of course.
Yeah.
All that happened. But anyway,
that was an innovative maneuver in the heat of battle.
Yeah, that was Commander Copeland, who he actually survived the battle and was awarded the Navy Cross for that. But he did the same thing, just fought like hell until he couldn't fight anymore. But finding them was, I would argue, probably the most exciting dives that I did, just because I've had such a deep appreciation for military history, and I was in the Navy, and these were my guys. It was a really hard technical problem to find shipwrecks at 8,000 meters. It's really hard. And we didn't even have autonomous underwater vehicles to survey the area. We used a lot of historical analysis. We used a submarine like an autonomous vehicle to search the seafloor. It was very touch and go, but we somehow managed to find them. And I'm very proud of the whole crew that we were able to do that.
So you dropped unmanned submersibles to...
No.
Yeah, how did you find...
We didn't.
Oh.
We started with the historical analysis of how can we narrow the search area.
Okay.
And then we used the submersible with pilots, me or someone else.
The limiting factor.
Doing search patterns with our sonar.
So you just went down there and drove around.
Correct. But in a very precise manner.
Yeah.
But we also had to take calculated risks of, not having overlapping coverages in certain areas because of the topography or this, that, or the other reason. And it worked.
Because it's not a flat topography. I mean,
no, it's not.
Describe the topography. Huge cliffs.
It was a slope. It was the Philippine Trench, which is one of 4 10,000-meter trenches in the world. And that's why these are the deepest shipwrecks, is the battle happened right over one of the deepest trenches in the world. So when the ship sank, they sank all the way down. The Titanic rests at about 4,000 meters, just shy of that. These were like at, I think, 6, 8. I have to recall, but these were very, very deep. They were half again deeper than the Titanic and much smaller, and in one piece. The Titanic was in 2 pieces with debris scattered everywhere, so that makes it easier to find.
The trench and these trenches in the ocean, I mean, they're huge, right? They're
they're
continent sized.
Oh, they're like the size of the Himalaya. The Mariana Trench is longer than the Himalaya. They are massive. Yeah. They're inverted mountain ranges.
And so humans have gone to a few points in a few of these trenches. You have done that, and a few other humans.
Well, there are about 28, depending on how you define them, deep ocean trenches. I've now been to 17. I don't know of anyone that's ever been down more than 2. And they're all kind of unique. And yeah, I do want to do the other 10.
And there's very little that's been explored. And I mean, they're huge. You go down.
Yeah, it's a point.
How much can you drive around when you go down there?
A couple square kilometers at most. That's it.
So there's so little of it all that's been explored.
Yeah. I don't know what to say other than, and it's very slow. You don't move quickly like in an aircraft down in the deep oceans. The fastest you can go is about half a kilometer. Unfortunately, he died in the recent disaster at the Titanic, but Hamish Harding, who's a British guy who lives in the UAE, I took him down to Challenger Deep because he helped sponsor some of my expeditions. And we did the longest transect ever at the bottom of Challenger Deep. It was about 3 kilometers. Okay. We were down there for 4.25 hours, the longest anyone's ever spent down there. Point is, that's all we covered. I mean, a good 3-4 kilometers long, and maybe 30 or 40 meters wide, which is all we could see. That's it. That being said, we did see some cool stuff. On the southern edge of the Challenger Deep, the deepest point of the Mariana Trench, we encountered a wall, and it was like a vertical wall, 150 feet high of just rock at Challenger Deep. So that is where the 2 tectonic plates collided and sheared off each other. That was it. And we were there just looking at it like a scar in the ocean that was just massive. And you would just never see that. I mean, it'd be like a version of El Capitan underwater.
Yeah.
And there
These
we
are
were.
huge
It was so
geographic
cool.
features.
It was so cool.
Do you have spiritual experiences in these places? I mean, you've been to some remarkable places. Do you just sit and how does it feel? I mean,
Well, I mean, when you ask people, do you have a spiritual experience? It's like, how do you define that? I'm actually now a Zen Buddhist by, I guess, any description you want to apply to me. So while I don't know if I would be spiritual in a conventional religious sense, I do like to appreciate things very deeply. And one thing I'm very thankful to James Cameron to is, when we were speaking a lot before I made my first dives to the Challenger Deep, he advised me saying, at some point, don't just be focused on your mission, doing marine research, going here, going there. Just turn your thrusters off, lean back, and just appreciate where you are. And for the last 15 minutes of my first dive to the Challenger Deep, that's exactly what I did. And that was a very cool, soulful moment where here I was in a vessel that I had helped produce with my team.
Yeah.
It was quiet. And I literally was just floating just above the bottom of the ocean that only 3 other people had ever been to in history, and just taking it all in. And it was great.
Profound.
It was good. And it just like the overview effect when I went into space, which by comparison was like a Metallica concert.
What do you mean?
It was easier to be soulful at the Challenger Deep than it was in a freaking rocket.
I see.
It's just loud and it's bright and you're in 0G. It's just like
sensory overload.
Total sensory overload, but amazing.
That's so cool.
Actually, I've never made that analogy before. Going up into space is like going to a Metallica concert. Going to the bottom of the ocean is like listening to a candlelit quartet.
Huh.
And then mountain climbing.
What is Everest like?
Yeah, Everest is like going to a Smash concert where you're in the pit.
Yeah.
You're just getting thrown around and you don't know what's going to happen.
You're sick and you might get a concussion.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't know what's going on. Yeah.